The tweet-a-thon is over. The results are being tabulated, and at some point, someone will walk up here and will hand me something, some piece of paper, maybe a check, who knows, that I will give out. Anyway, thank you for everybody who has participated. One of the funniest things, as I've been walking around today, has been the most popular places, other than the video booth, which is a big success, I hear, and the rush to get food when we kept you overly long and you were starving. The most popular places have been the electric outlets. So that's a great sign that people have truly been tweeting. So thank you very much for that. Now that you know, now that you have at least heard, maybe you haven't committed them all to memory, all the little tidbits that Spencer has presented to us. And Spencer, everybody is telling me that we need to have you move to Nashville so that you can continue to do this. Spencer's information will be on the website. As I understand it, in the toolkit, and so it's going to be accessible. But remember, there will be a lot of different training opportunities between now and May 6th. So don't feel like you have to eat this elephant all in one bite. But we have an incredible panel here for you today. Remember, this is time for you to ask your questions. As I said, you've been very patient with us babbling on. There is a microphone by each projector. And you can also tweet your questions. As you see down there, it says questions, question mark, tweet. So I encourage you to do that, and then those will come up to us as well. All right, everybody ready? Our panelists. First, obviously, someone you know very well by now, Spencer Whelan. Second to Spencer is Carrie Graham, who you heard from this morning as he walked us through the kinds of material that is included in the toolkit and that is already available to you for emailing and Facebooking and your website and countless other uses. Next to him is Jay Frank, CEO of Dig. Is it Dig or is it Dig? It's Dig. DigMart, and D-I-G-M-A-R-K. Jay helps companies such as Universal Music Group and Sony Music with their social media and digital strategies. He is also, this is not official, and I don't even know if he's still doing it, but at least at one time, he was the guy at the ACM Awards who counted the votes and told everybody who had won. I probably wasn't supposed to say that, but whatever. Last but certainly not least is Blake Killian, who's Director of Social Media for one of our sponsors, Zender Communications. And we thank them all for taking the time to be with us today. I am going to kick off with a question that has certainly been bugging me all morning. But I really don't want anyone to be shy, so please jump up and get to the microphones, and I will call on you as quickly as possible. I'm going to do one question before you come up, and that is the question of, okay, I have a staff of 1 1/4, and I am beyond the age range of most people who are tweeting, and what if our donors don't even do social media? You know, outside of the online stuff, what are some tactics? And you certainly touched on this, Spencer. But you know, what do we do? How do we start? So if y'all just jump in. It's a free for all as far as I'm concerned.
I'll let you go since I talk so much. After you.
After me. Everyone's just going to keep looking down the aisle.
Step number 1: ask your son, daughter, grandchild, niece, nephew. You know, but seriously, I mean, the thing that you have to remember specifically about social networking is to not be intimidated by it, is to just remember that the primary aspect of it is the social part of it. And to those that use social media best, social networking is really no different than a cocktail party. It's just except rather than holding fort and being with 20 of your friends and rapt attention of your story, they're just following it with you on a post on Twitter or Facebook. So on that aspect, it's not intimidating, but the other side of it is that I think the success of this particular event is going to be achieved because people are going to hear about it from everybody. The success of it is going to be predicated on the fact that many of you in the room know many other people in the room. I'm sure many people are making new friends today. And on May 6th, the more that people hear about it in any way, shape, or form, the more that they're going to participate. But that can't just happen online. You know, we've organized campaigns for people, and they come to hire our company and say, we want to do a digital campaign. I said, well, what else are you doing? They go, nothing. I said, not going to succeed. So even if you're not good at social media, even if you're not an expert at social media, still do all of the things that you know are tried and true. Talk to everybody you know, make phone calls, send letters if that works for you, speak at groups. All of that stuff still works, and more importantly, if that stuff doesn't happen, then the big payback will only be half as successful as it could be. The success is going to be dependent on the online stuff and the offline stuff combining into a massive awareness throughout the whole community.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. I mean, I would say do what you normally do. If you don't have a large digital componentry in your marketing already, and if your constituents don't listen to you via digital, then you have to do the things that you're already doing to communicate with them. Email, we talk about that. You know, email may not initially sound like a social or digital media, but it is. So email is part of that. Mail is part of that. And I mean, Jay's comment about pick up the phone and call them is not a bad idea either, especially if it's somebody from your organization who is, you know, high up enough and/or influential enough, or perhaps funny enough to make an impact with that phone call. And then there are other traditional routes, which, you know, depending on where your community is, you know, we've given some tools for press releases within, you know, some of your local newspapers or in your local markets, flyers, those kind of things. The impact of this will be a cumulative one. Some of that will benefit you immediately, but overall, the more impact and information about the big payback in general, as Spencer said, all boats will rise with that tide.
Hello, everyone. I just needed to say that to break the ice in the room for myself personally. I think that a lot of times when people talk about social media, if they have a social media conversation, people often just think about Facebook and Twitter. And I think in reality, what we are doing today isn't any different than what we as humans have done for a really long time. You know, cavemen wrote on walls, and in the Middle Ages, people hung tapestries on walls that told stories. We've always sort of had something to say and figured out a way to say it. I think that just making social media about Facebook and Twitter is intimidating on some level, and also alienating, because if you're intimidated to the point that you don't know how to use that social channel effectively, then you may not do it at all. And so I like getting questions about participating in social media exercises or marketing initiatives that include a strong offline component, because I like artifacts, I like real things, I like paper products, and I like somebody to reach out and touch me. And far too often I think we get wrapped up in the Zuckerberg-ness of social media. And yes, it's magical, and yes, it's mystical, and yes, it's this really big thing. But at the end of the day, we have to do something real and really valuable. In my case, for our clients, and in your case, for your constituents, and for growing your funds. That's never going to happen if everybody's not on the latest craze, social media, trendy bandwagon. You got to go out and make it happen. And so we often like to think that it's not so much about social media, it's about the story we're telling, and you guys have some remarkable stories to tell. And if you focus on the story, the technology will sort of take care of itself. And I would just then find places to tell it. I think there's a resurgence of email happening now, email marketing. There's a resurgence of even blogging platforms, and that's happening because I think that wave has crested. Social media is huge. Facebook is bigger than it's ever been. There's over 1 billion people on Facebook. That's all true, and it's still a great big thing. Thank God, because I'm a social media director. My position didn't exist 4 years ago, and if it didn't exist, social media didn't exist today, I don't know what I would be doing. But there's this resurgence of the real world coming back, and I'm glad, and that feels very natural to me, because that the popularity and the trendiness of it's dying down, and everybody's all like, okay, let's get back to business. And so I'm not even sure if I answered the question, but it's about content, and I would just find places to put that content in a press release, in an email, in a poster, and hang the poster on the wall, because one way or another that message will get around if it's good enough.
I'd also like to add something that we haven't really talked about today, which is the Community Foundation is going out and trying to help get the message sort of at a broader level. Part of that will be of assistance, obviously. If we can help explain what the Big Payback is, you all can explain your place in it and how you fit into it and the opportunity that it presents for you. We have met with, for instance, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters. We have met with many of the media outlets and media partners around Middle Tennessee, and we are continuing to meet others over the course of time. There are 24 billboards which are already up and out telling the story as much as one can in a billboard about this. And there's also the opportunity for you to be a billboard, especially those people who caught these lovely T-shirts. Wear the T-shirt out, and believe me, someone will ask you what's going on. And I don't know how many stickers we had printed for today or the like, but certainly anything you can do to become your own billboard walking around town certainly will engender the opportunity to have a conversation with someone. Spencer, do you have anything to add? Okay. There was a gentleman behind you who got in the orange shirt. If you want to go, and then we'll get back to you. Don't go far. Okay.
I was going to ask a variation on the same question. What's your advice for the organization that is small, almost entirely focused on its missions, such as young people 18 to 23, and has a website, and that's about it? So can you give, as concrete as you can, small suggestions like we'll make you our brainstorming panel for new transitions, $150,000 budget, 2 major foundation supporters, works with young people 18 to 23, has a website, volunteer executive director, and struggling to keep its nose above water with the crises of the young people it faces each day. What are your brainstorms for, not these giant things, none of which I can relate to, I'm sorry, real concrete things that could be done with a reasonable amount of effort in maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Who's your audience, and what's your story?
Okay. The audience is twofold. One is young people facing adversity with a story that they can make a new transition, they can make a new start. And the second is of potential supporters who are out there who know about the problems but feel defeated because they don't have any idea of how they might do something about it. I'm not talking about creating consciousness from start, but people who've done enough, been around enough, that they see young people struggling on the path from high school. Their counselor and teachers are gone, and now they're going alone toward adulthood.
Where are you located, and how many do you serve?
Madison, Tennessee, we serve at a given moment 15 young people residing in one apartment complex where we have shared meals, a clubhouse with internet, laundry, and that sort of thing, and we turn over. So we'll serve maybe only directly about 40 or 45 young people in the course of 12 months.
All local?
That they're drawn from the metropolitan area because there isn't anything else like it. The ones who tend to stay tend to be young people who are familiar with what is, if you're from Charlotte Avenue, it's wilderness. But so it needs to be Madison, Upper Gallatin, surrounding areas for the kids to stick. Otherwise, it's just too strange to them. And we think we're creating a model that ought to be replicated elsewhere. And our third audience is other nonprofits who might pick up on this underserved group and come up with some way to serve them.
I think off the top of my head, using old media, one of the opportunities that every nonprofit in this room has to do, an opportunity to do what you do better, is to talk about your outcomes, to talk about the exact people that you are serving, give stories about the 40 people that you are serving every year, talk about where they came from and where they've gotten or where they're going. I think those kinds of outcomes really appeal to donors, and they are stories that everybody in this room can talk about. It's not just always for donors. It's not always just about the mission and the plan and the concept. It's about the real lives that are touched. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have the photo booth today, is to help you, without costing any money, help you tell some of those specific, very tangible stories.
Yeah, I think in social media there tends to be two different kinds of channels. One is the channel that you would presume, which is the channel of your organization, and the second is your personal channel. And they're two distinctly different things. Just as an example, my mom is on Facebook. I'll go and talk about great things that are happening with my business on my business channel. My mom never responds. I go and talk about the exact same thing on my personal channel. My mom writes the most loving comment. One of the things, if your organization doesn't currently have its own setup, I'm pretty certain, based on the penetration that Facebook alone has, that your close group of trusted donors, advisors, staff, they do. And the best thing that you can do, and probably the easiest thing to do, have a coffee night, have a light lunch, invite them all over, and don't ask them for money. Ask them to tell the story. Ask them to say, why does this organization mean so much to you? And ask them to put that on their social media. It doesn't matter that it's not coming from the organization's social media channel. What matters is that it's coming from a personal channel. And by the way, the personal message will be able to elicit a lot more reaction, a lot more passion, a lot more donations, and possibly even a lot more volunteers. Sometimes you just don't ask them. So if you're not good at social media, if your organization doesn't have the time to manage social media, just ask for a little bit from those that are close to you. Not all of them will, but enough of them will that it will make a difference. And it's easy to do, and they love being asked to do things that don't involve them writing a check.
Yeah,
I have something to say to you.
oh, sorry, please
No,
go.
no, go.
I've talked enough. It's okay. Go ahead, seriously.
Owning a business and not telling people about it is like winking at a pretty girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but no one else does. When you were speaking, and sir, what was your name? Roger? Roger, when you were speaking, the first thing that came to mind was, what is it that you do every day? Because you described that what you do is taking place over the course of a year. So that's a narrative that's playing out over the course of a year. So the first place my mind goes is, man, I would like to see that story play out chronologically over time. That sounds an awful lot like a blog. And so to me, I think that it's important to tell your story. And even if you think you're telling your story, make sure you are. Get that out there. But to grow it or to reach your goals, I would turn it into a game. It feels like a game. I would use a tool like Splurgy, for instance. It's a really powerful tool. It's SPLURGY.com. And it's a tool that, and I have no affiliation with Splurgy. It's just a tool we use that's really great. It will turn your goals into a game. And so, for instance, if you want to get your message out there, you can incentivize your audience to earn a point for sharing your message on their Facebook page. They can earn another point for sharing it on Twitter. They can earn another point for clicking a link and visiting your site. It's this way of sort of building on activity. So instead of putting all of your effort and getting your message out there and getting one action, Splurgy enables you to get a lot of action. And I think that's important for one-man shops or smaller organizations that need to do a lot with very little. So a tool like Splurgy would enable you to do that. But I would definitely have a blog that's telling your story over time. The things that you're achieving, or even just a day in the life of the people that are living inside this place, I think becomes very poignant and very touching. And I think you could get to your goals that way.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. You totally said exactly what I was going to say. So just a very brief thing to add on top of that is, you see what Amazon's doing now with their new original series, where they're just releasing pilots out there and seeing which ones people pick up, and then all of a sudden those will get greenlit as series, kind of like, it's a little bit different, but Netflix has done with House of Cards. It's just, we're going to throw them out there and see if it works, right? We were talking about this up front with somebody, and on the front of my card I say, speak the truth, and it always wins, right? It's the one communication strategy that always wins every time. It may not win in the amount of time that you want it to win, but it always ends up winning. And the reason I say that is because the organization, your mission is the mission of the organization, but if the communication and the story behind it is not being exposed, then you're just good people doing good things, and that's great. But an organization has a story. And releasing episodes of content on social media or whatever, you almost have to look at it as we're telling a story over time, just like he said with a narrative. It's episodes of a story, and at some point, somebody's going to binge watch that. Just like you binge watch things on Netflix after it picked up. They're going to go back and they're going to read the history of stuff. And all those times that you were tweeting something and posting something on Facebook and you never got any response, all of a sudden you're going to get a response because somebody really read it and got it and understood it. So in time, the truth of your message will come out as long as you're willing to tell it. It doesn't sound like a very concrete thing, but it actually is. It's something you can do every day.
Well, and to piggyback off what you're saying, a lot of people see social media as this very fleeting thing, but social media content is very persistent. It stays online for a really long time. And so I couldn't agree more. We see so often that people enter the funnel at various different stages of the marketing cycle. And when they do, they go back and they read all your backstory, and they love you for all those reasons. And so something like a blog, even a Facebook page, once somebody is sold on your message and hooked into what you're doing, you can't give them enough content.
I would say the only other thing, it's a little cautionary that your audience that you're serving, the constituency you're serving, they likely are all on all these platforms that you're not on in terms of getting your stories out there. So that's a little scary to me. I don't know how they find you. I don't know if it's something that youth audience, hears about it or goes and finds you, or their parents are doing that, or their pastors or whatever it is that are finding you. But that if somebody is in trouble like that, you need to have enough presence to be getting you on search, whether that's by parents or that's by other people. And I would assume that there are people who are passionate enough about your organization that they might volunteer their efforts to help you begin to build an infrastructure, but eventually you're going to have an infrastructure. And I bet you have some pretty powerful stories that, as both these guys have said, can really resonate, especially if they're told from the perspective of somebody whose life was changed. And those are often really compelling stories. So if you get that infrastructure up really fast, then you can be getting those stories out over the next 2 months prior to this big payback. And then I think even comparing notes with some of the other people in this room, perhaps the people at Community Foundation could connect you to other nonprofits who have been through where you are, but have built something that has given them more resonance in digital and social spaces and allowed them to tell those stories. So there are a lot of resources in this room. And I got to tell you, I bet all these people love each other enough to pass that on.
Well, and the Big Payback did something really smart on their website. In their media center, they put together sample Facebook posts and sample tweets. I can't tell you how many people don't do that. that's a really smart thing to do. You should never just presume that people know how to share your message, much less share your message effectively. So, start with your friends and send them an email and say, hey, can you tweet this? Don't just say, can you tweet, but can you tweet this, and write it for them. Make it easy for them.
Gentlemen, yeah.
I'm new to this whole scene here, and I'm actually fairly new into my 501c3.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm excited about it. So my question is really a technical one about money. I like the opportunity to get our supporters to go to the community foundation, and because there's a lot of credibility. I mean, we're a rather unsexy organization, and to come through a portal that says we're bona fide, we're here, we're serious, we're credible. I mean, I think that there's a lot of value in that. So just a couple questions, which I probably, if I dug down into it, I probably would have known already. One is there an ongoing giving plan? If somebody gives once, we get it. But is there an opportunity for someone to sign up for an ongoing plan through this portal? So that's my first question.
Okay, do you want me to answer?
Yes.
I didn't know if you want to tell me the other
no,
ones.
go ahead,
Well,
go ahead.
let me answer that one. Yes, Laurel, I know. They're telling me, they're waving because they're all excited about the question. The Big Payback is one opportunity that the Community Foundation is involved in. We have an ongoing, everyday portal available to you and to every other nonprofit organization through givingmatters.com. Giving Matters Giving Matters was created 7 or 8 years ago, and we made it a point to put on every profile of every nonprofit that was up to date to have a Donate Now button. Which for many organizations gave them the ability to receive gifts online at absolutely no cost, because they didn't have to create all the bells and whistles and the secure system. We had it, it was available to them, and I think yesterday I signed a whole big stack of checks from 2 people who giving them the money that had come through Giving Matters. Like I mentioned about the Big Payback earlier today, it's the same is true with Giving Matters. We can't get around the credit card costs, but the Community Foundation takes nothing off the top. And so if someone gives you $100, we subtract out the credit card cost, and for the Big Payback, we subtract out the website cost because we can't get around that. But the rest of the money goes absolutely to you. And we're cutting the checks, I don't know, it feels like every day, but I'm sure it isn't. But we're getting them to you as quickly as possible. So that's already available to you outside of the Big Payback.
But so is there an ongoing, like to become a sustaining sponsor? I mean, is there something where you can sign up so every month that can be automatically withdrawn from your bank account, and we can get people to sign up to be a regular sustaining member?
The answer is yes. All right, the 3 of you who are jumping up and down, stand up. Okay, go see them, and they will tell you every little detail.
Awesome, thank you.
Just really quickly, just to kind of also drive home a point. Sir, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, the
okay.
gentleman who just asked the question.
Hello?
Excuse me. The
Wait,
gentleman.
more answers.
Yeah, just a quick question. Just what's your name and what does your organization do?
My name is Vince Wilcox, and I'm the coordinator of the 21st Drug Court, and we're an alternative sentencing program for non-violent felony offenders with addiction issues in Hickman, Perry, Lewis, and Williamson counties.
Great. What I'd like to ask everybody to do, because look, you just got a smattering of applause, but we just went through to answer your question, and none of us knew your name, none of us knew your organization. When you walk up to the microphone, first just to ask here in the room, everybody please tell us your name and 1 sentence on what your organization does, because guess what? That's also social networking. And all it takes is just to go up to the microphone and just say 1 time in 1 sentence what you do in 1 place, and somebody in this room, because it showed by the applause, might come up to you afterwards and says, you know what, I've got something else that might help your organization. I really believe in this because I have a relative who associates with this, and I'd love to be able to make a donation. You never know when it's going to have that opportunity. So it's not just to help us answer your questions, but make sure to do this well, whether it's on a computer, on a phone, or live in an audience, always use every opportunity to be able to social network your organization to make it work. And I think right now in this room is probably the best place to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Well, following instructions, Susanna Shoemate with the Nashville Children's Alliance. We work with children who have been sexually or severely physically abused here in Davidson County. I have a question for the gentleman on the left, and I'm sorry I forgot your name,
Me?
but who has actually worked with cities who have done this before.
Spencer.
Spencer, yeah.
Spencer, that's what I was going to say, and I was afraid I'd be wrong in front of lots of my friends.
No problem.
I was wondering if you had some analytics from the cities that have done this before, saw from the videos and the slideshow, lots of new donors, and that's great. What is the retention rate for the cities that have done this before, and what was their average gift size?
Good question. I can tell you anecdotally because I no longer work for the company that had those analytics, so I can't tell you those exactly today. Maybe that's a good follow-up question for Kimbia when they do their follow-up trainings on the actual process. That may be something to bring up to them. But I can tell you that on average, online we saw about a 30% increase in donations across the board for organizations that were transitioning to a system like this that was purely online. We're also seeing an average donation. If you get enough donations in the door, it usually ends up averaging out around $80 a donation. That seems to be, once you get a statistically significant number of donations in the door, the average tends towards $78 to $80, which is pretty significant, especially in cities that are asking for a minimum of 25 or 50, you know? So I can tell you those statistics. The retention rate is completely, and this ties in exactly with what we were talking about here. It depends on communication. It depends on the actions that the organizations take. If you look at the big payback and you get that money in the door and you look at that donor list and you let it languish for a couple of months, that retention rate is going to be horrible, and it is completely dependent upon the organizations to do that. So communications is a fundraising plan. It is a missional thing. You know, if we could classify, you know, communications dollars and the money spent towards that as something mission driven, I think it should be, because it is. If people don't know what you're doing, then you don't know. But the important thing is every single donor is going to get a receipt immediately to say, this is tax deductible, this is all the tactics that you need for your gift. But immediately after that, you will have the list of who the donors are, their zip codes. Some people were talking about some good ideas of maybe we could figure out an idea of who gave them the most zip codes and do a party there, or you know, whatever it is. And take that data and do something with it. Then you'll see retention rates go up. The important thing about online giving, and especially in this generation of millennials, people born around 1980 or younger, but the important thing about this audience is that they don't plan giving. So retention is completely driven by the inspirational messages and the continuation of the story. If they will give $25 here, $50 here. Oh, there's a tsunami in Japan. There's $50. There's this over there. You know, there's a distraction of messages. So the planned gift, you know, is an important tool for your really core advocates who really love and support you. But the retention is dependent upon continuing to inspire that small dollar donor and take them from 25 to more. I used to do a presentation about the Obama campaign. By the way, I was on the McCain campaign in the first 6 months, and I got to see what a bad paradigm of online fundraising was versus an amazing paradigm of online fundraising. I don't think anybody can deny that Obama was amazing at that. And what they did is they got $25 donors in the door instead of asking for the federal maximum of $25,000, and they walked them up the ladder through inspiration and hope and messages and messages and messages. And that was the retention plan.
I think another opportunity is that every donor I talk to, no matter whether they're 12 or whether they're 112, in this day and age with the immediacy of information, they want to know that their money had an impact. They want to know that their money made a difference. Even for very small amounts of money that were given, they still want to know there was a reason that they gave. And if they really feel connected and that gift did something, they are so substantially more likely to give back. The other little tidbit I'll show you is Blackbaud just did a study recently that said that giving in 2012 was up 1.7%, but online giving was up 10.2%. So this certainly seems to be the future of all of our fundraising. Yes. Okay.
Try to make this quick. My name is Sunny Rosenbaum with Tucker's House, and Tucker's House helps families that have children with disabilities to make their homes wheelchair accessible, safer, and therapy friendly. And the projects we do sometimes can be kind of expensive, so it's really important that I connect in the community with volunteers, companies that are willing to donate or deeply discount their rates. We've partnered with Habitat for Humanity. We're talking about partnering with Narrowgate. We've partnered with United Cerebral Palsy. It's really important to partner with the other agencies in the community that we can kind of find an overlap, and that helps to bring the cost of the program down. And then we can help more kids that way. So with social media, see, we're not only connecting with our donors, we're also connecting with that volunteer base and other organizations that we can partner with. So I really feel like I really want to know how we can do that, how we can really branch out like that.
I think one thing that we see time and time again is when you give the people that are following you, the people that believe in your organization, when you give them a modest goal, they love to get the goal. They love to get to the goal. The other thing that we also have found, and this is mostly in non-charitable work, but I imagine that this also works within the charitable aspect, is that once a goal is reached, amazingly more people come on board. So that, I would look and take advantage of the leaderboard process in the Big Payback to go and say, I'm just going to pick a number out of a hat. Hey, during the Big Payback, we'd like to raise $1,000 so we can get this ramp at this location, let's say. I don't know how much it costs, but let's just use that as an example. $1,000 to get this ramp at this location. You set a goal prior to the event to all the people around you have something to rally behind. You watch on the leaderboard, you see how your organization does. Let's presume 2/3 of the way through the day, you hit the $1,000. Immediately tell everybody, thank you so much, we've hit the $1,000 goal, we can build the ramp, we really appreciate the support. And amazingly, what will likely happen is you will probably get another 25 to 50% extra in donations when that happens, because people love it when you hit a goal. So the important thing there would be is to set a goal, make the goal something that's achievable. Don't say we want to go raise $50,000 when you've never raised $50,000 before. Make it small and achievable, especially since most of you are small organizations. And then celebrate reaching that goal, especially if it happens during the Big Payback, because if it does, then, and you have a leaderboard to show everybody, it's not something that is happening behind closed doors, it will allow an opportunity to feed off of itself, because people love to celebrate that success, and that success will elicit additional donations coming to your organization.
And as Spencer said, you might then also want to set a second goal and say, well, we've got the $1,000 to build the ramp we wanted to build, but we know we've got a waiting list of, we have somebody else who needs one, and maybe you can use that celebration to propel
Like an accessible bathroom or a ceiling track lift system.
or another ramp for someone else.
Got it.
Was your question also about activating community members?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, volunteers and people who are willing to donate product or materials and labor.
So one of my mantras is, I'm still Blake. One of my mantras is people subscribe to people, and there's a real power in a face. And so if one of your goals is to activate a community, then I would take the population of volunteers that you have now and somehow figure out a way to celebrate those people by showing their picture, because that will do two things for you. one thing it will do is it will acknowledge their contribution, and an acknowledgement goes an awful long way with people, especially civic-minded volunteers. And so I would acknowledge those people with their face, with pictures. But the other thing that that's going to do is that's going to start to accumulate an army of people around you that you're now quantifying and telling the world. So maybe you start an Instagram account and you start taking pictures of each and every one of your volunteers, develop a hashtag, so that over time, when you check your Instagram feed, it's not just a bunch of random moments in time, but it's an army of people that are activated, that are helping you. And I bet that will start an avalanche of more people wanting to join you.
That's good. That's good.
I think we have time either for 2 more comments up here or another question. Comment.
So I was going to say, there's a question on Twitter, so I
Great.
just want to kind of ask that question, and this is probably actually for you, which was asked by Monroe Harding, which was once an organization drops off the leaderboard, how can they reach new donors without them having to search for the organization or using search keywords?
Yeah, really good question. The leaderboard is going, here's the thing. There's 2 types of motivations during an event like this. There's the leaderboard, which is there really to motivate you rather than motivate the donors. In some cases, the donors will look at the leaderboard and say, oh, I want to keep them at number 10 or keep them in the top 10. But it's really your job to motivate them to say, hey, we just fell out of the top 10, keep us in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So the leaderboard's really there to motivate you so that the communication keeps going on and on and on. It's your social media feed that's going to be their primary medium during the day, or your event if you're having an event or something like that. So if you're falling or you're not getting the kind of donation frequency that you wanted, then that's where some of the campaign planning goes into effect. Is have your goal. If the goal is reached and all of a sudden you get a drop off, you better have another goal in your back pocket that is different and compelling enough to get people reinterested. So it's contingency plans, a couple in a row, and if you have a social media manager who gets it, they are going to start understanding just in real time. Oh, we just fell out of 10. We're 4 donations away from 5,000, and we haven't had a donation in an hour. Just get us these last 4, and so it's really your job to motivate them with the data that you're getting from the leaderboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got 1 more question, and then I have some information for you.
Thank you so much. I'm Wanda James. I'm with United South and Eastern Tribes. We're located here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we provide service to 26 federally recognized tribal nations across the south and eastern part of the United States. We have several of us employees that find ourselves for the first time involved in fundraising. And I've heard some wonderful information here today, but I have to say, from the personal standpoint, this is quite daunting for me. It can be very intimidating, and if you had $1 million tidbit to offer, what would that be?
Well, first I'd use it for myself.
Right.
I will say one thing, and I think this was actually brilliant. Assuming that your children like you, or if you have children, Jay's suggestion of pulling in people that you know, of a generation that is digitally fluent, is in many cases a lot easier than trying to hire or get volunteerism from somebody who has a job out in the workplace and may not be as attached to you or the cause. That's one. I don't know if it's 1 million, but that may be 100,000.
I think one of the other things is to, number 1, remember to take a breath every so often. And again, not feel like you have to eat the elephant in one bite. And to realize that it is our goal to have this be an annual event. The first annual, the inaugural, anything is never as grand and glorious as it becomes over the course of time. Spencer cited the effect of some cities where they're now up to, I think you said $10 million. Somebody was doing $25 million We're not going to do $25 million, but maybe
Never say never.
Maybe in, no, I didn't say never. Maybe in 10 years or maybe in 25 years that we will be able to do that. I think pick 2 or 3 tools that can work for you. Concentrate on those. Solidify your base. And then, you can, if you can begin to figure out how to do that in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then you can think of something else that you might add on there. That sounds a little bit more manageable to me. Carrie, what did you?
Blake said something earlier that I think is really important, and this is the part that is not so daunting, I hope, for anybody in this room, which is getting your story right. I mean, I think most of the people in this room are passionate about the story. Get your story, if you get centered in your story again, then you can always go talk to somebody else about it or hone that story. And as he said, that will start to tell itself. And whether that means, you got to go find somebody to put it in a channel that, is one of these tools that we're talking about, that's actually easier than telling the story. And the story is the compelling part for all of this. Otherwise, you got this huge room of competitors who are doing the same thing. So.
And maybe one of the places to start is to go out to the video booth and to tell your story and to leave here, and we'll send you the video that you can then get someone to teach you how to put on your website or put on Facebook or put on your Giving Matters profile. You'll at least have that tool in your hand as you leave today. And then once you've got it, you can use it as different opportunities present themselves. Jay, did you have?
Well, I was going to say this is something that was in Spencer's talk as well, which was he was talking about on social media to post often and post regularly and post a lot. And part of the reason for that is because you never know when something can happen, even on the most minor things. I mean, one of the things that we talk about in terms of a close to, I guess, $1 million idea for people who are just getting started with anything is, especially when it comes to social media, posting it wrong is better than not posting it at all.
Yep.
And so it's better to try and fail, because everybody I know who works in digital media has definitively failed. And we do it with a smile on our face because 2 hours later, everybody forgot it. So the thing is that you never know what's going to happen. Like, I'm just going to ask you right now, can you pick a number between 1 and 100? 50. Oh, great, you picked a long number. Somebody else answer this question while
I have an answer.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for the good work you're doing. My wife is a member of the Tunica-Biloxi tribe in Marksville, Louisiana. And now my son, who's 10 months old, he's also a Tunica-Biloxi tribal member. So thank you for.
One of our members.
Yep. I can see it in your eyes that social media is daunting and intimidating. And you know what? That's okay. Perhaps instead of investing your precious time and resources into trying to figure out social media, ask for someone to help you.
We have someone actually on board that is pretty good at it and doing a good job for us so far.
Because maybe it may be more beneficial to invest your time and resources into incentivizing an internship program, a volunteer program, where social media experts in your area would be more than happy to help you. All you have to do is ask. And so,
So just really quickly, just to kind of why I asked you to pick a number. Best Buddies, Tennessee, where are you in the room? Okay.
Tweeting a lot.
Carrie, can you read and then hit send?
It says, congratulations, I pledge $100 to you during the big payback.
Send. That's
Wow.
my personal pledge to you. You were just happened to be tweet number 50. And as Carrie said, you're tweeting often. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen when you get your message out there. And that's just my little way of just showing how important that is. So just come find me later, and I'll make sure on May 6th you've got $100 from me.
Really good
Great.
idea.
Okay, to follow that up. Oh, Spencer, one more
I
thing.
just want to add one simple thing to that, because he is exactly right. And it's not just try, but it's also don't stop. It's just do not stop trying. There's a little quote that I love that's like, once you're swimming, it doesn't matter how deep the water, you still got to swim. So once you get in it, you've just got to keep going at it, because at some point there's going to make there's going to be a wave that happens, and you want to be able to be in that channel when that happens, like that, for example. So just, it's not $1 million solution, but Zuckerberg didn't go thinking he was going to make Facebook, and all these people didn't go create an app thinking that they just failed in a lot of little programs that they were building until one hit. It's the $1 million ideas, just don't stop at it if you believe it. That's it.
On that note, let me share some news with you all. First of all, thanks to our panelists. This is definitely the $1 million panel up here, I'll say that. Final numbers for today. 314 organizations have submitted their participation agreements for May 6th. So far, 110 photos have been taken at the photo booth. So far, 50 nonprofit videos have been shot at the video booth. Those are both still available. Nearly 3,500 Twitter mentions by 1,035 unique users using the hashtag #BigPayback since last Thursday. That's a week. And the winner of the $1,000 Twitter contest prize is VSA Arts of Tennessee. Did they leave? No. Are they eligible to win? Okay. So I was going to give it to somebody else, but no. Okay. You're with her? Oh, you're willing. You really want to get me in trouble. Okay. I'm going to sick Francis on you again. Okay. We will keep that and get that to her. And so the video booth is still open, and it is available. I hope you'll take part in that. The photo booth is open, and the tours of your home, the Music City Center, are available. It is an amazing, spectacular building, and even though it feels like you've walked 3 miles, you've only touched a portion of it. And I want to thank you most sincerely for coming today. We look forward to working with you on the Big Payback.